Alright, so here we have pretty much the rest of the equipment that is in compartment 1 on the driver's side of the rescue. We have box 1A, 1B, 1C. 1D is still on there, that's structural collapse equipment, and I'll talk about that at the end. Starting with box 1A, we have our reciprocating saw, one of the tools that we're going to use the most on vehicle rescues. So again, this is something that those who aren't rescue qualified can always be looking to or looking forward to stage, because it's going to be used on pretty much every vehicle rescue. So what to look for with our reciprocating saws, we want to make sure it's got a good battery on it. So we press the button right on here, and we'll have 3 LED lights on there to say that it's fully charged. So we want to make sure it's fully charged. We want to make sure it's clean from the last call. That just means blowing any dust or glass, debris out of the chuck on the inside here and off the exterior. We want to make sure that it's got 2 good blades. So we are now using exclusively on during vehicle rescues these red Diablo blades. Right now we have 2 different forms of them. We're sort of testing both out. One is for thick metal in demolition, and one is for automotive or automobile dismantling. But we want to make sure that each of these saws has 2 new red blades. We don't want to be using old chewed up blades on a vehicle rescue where someone's really depending on us to get them out in a timely manner. So as soon as a blade gets used, that goes into our, it's in the box on the officer side actually, but we have a container of training blades. So we want to make sure we have 2 fresh blades on here, one in the chuck. So to change that, we just pull up on this lever here. And we want to make sure that one in the chuck is secured so we can pull on it, and one taped to the top here. So that's it for the reciprocating saw. Make sure it's clean, make sure we have 2 blades on here, and make sure the battery is fully charged. Next in here, we have bottle soapy water. Bottle soapy water is going to be to lubricate any surfaces that we're cutting on, to cut down on friction and cut down on the buildup of heat. Next thing we have in here is our steering wheel cutter. So this, like any other hydraulic pump, needs to be closed to work. So we have a knob right here on the side. We can open that up to relieve pressure, but if we want to use it, we just turn that to the right, hand tight, and pump our lever here. It's going to be tough to see, but my blade here is coming up. The blade on this isn't especially sharp. It breaks the steering wheel more out of compression than actually cutting it. It sort of just splits it apart. So once we're done with it, we release this knob, and with a gloved hand or a tool, we can press down on that blade there to reset it back to its starting position. And we always want to turn our knob back. So whether it's bottle jacks, hydraulic jack, anything, we want to make sure it's closed when we're done so it's ready to go for the next person. The remainder of this box is just some hand tools. So we have a mini crowbar, mini bar, mini Halligan, whatever you want to call it. Again, for peeling plastic trim or anything of that sort. 2 claw hammers, 2 pipe wrenches, and this little threaded hook. So you'll notice on the bumper of some vehicles, there's a little square piece of plastic about 2 inches in size. On some vehicles, that can be popped out, and you'll find a female threaded anchor point for this screw-in hook. Now, this screw-in hook can screw into some of those anchor points and then be used for us as either an anchor point or for stabilization to hook a vehicle up to a winch or something of that sort. So that's it for box 1A. Box 1B is come-alongs. So our chain come-alongs here, we have 2 of them in here, and we have some additional chains. So these chains can be swapped out to use a smaller chain or a shorter chain. They're all the same size. Some of them are just different lengths. So to use this, we want to flip our switch here to either the load or unload position. So if I flip it here where it says load, you can't see it there, but this is in the load position. I hook this up to whatever I'm going to pull. stationary hook up to my anchor, and then I would crank this to load my chain. Now while I'm cranking this here, it'll actually be back feeding when I'm cranking it because there's not a lot of weight on it. But if this had a lot of weight on it, it would work just like a ratchet strap where it'll let me freely move the handle down and then it'll load it on its way back up. Now to unload that system, same thing, I just press it backwards and now we're in the unload position. And then there's one final position and that's neutral. So I move that into the middle here and then that will allow the chain to freely move. First I have to have it in neutral, then I have to twist and pull up on my handle here. So if I do that, now I can freely move this chain. So I can start with my hook here on my anchor, pull this chain out as far as I need to get it to whatever I'm anchoring onto, and then pull it back in this direction to take up any slack before I flip my switch into the load position, and then I can start cranking on my column. So that's the second box. There's also some small light-duty ratchet straps in here, not used really for vehicle rescue, maybe just to tie down the hood on a vehicle or tie back a door to keep it out of our way. Now this final box that I have out here, box 1C, is 3 bottle jacks. So our first bottle jack here, well actually the first two, we have two 20-ton bottle jacks and we have a 10-ton bottle jack, or excuse me, an 8-ton bottle jack. The way these work, just like any other hydraulic pump, we want to first make sure that our bleeder valve there is closed. So it's right down here on all 3 of these. So I put this portion of my handle on, turn it to the right. This one was actually open. They should be stored in the closed position. Turn that to the right. And then get this as close to what I'm trying to lift as possible. So first I'd be building this up with cribbing. Then I should remember that this has a few inches of travel by just spinning out the head here. So I'd spin that head out as close as I can to whatever I'm lifting. And then I can hook together a few of my handles to keep myself away or keep myself from going underneath the vehicle or whatever it is I'm working on. And start pumping to move it up again. So these two are 20-ton, this one right here is 8-ton. Then when I'm done with it, just like any other piece of hydraulic equipment, I want to open up my bleeder, push down on this to put it back to the starting position, and spin this back down. Now, it's really important to remember that we close this bleeder back up when we're done for 2 reasons. 1, so that it's ready for the next person to use, and 2, so that it doesn't leak any hydraulic fluid out of it. So while I'm at it, I better just make sure that these 2 are closed. And now they are. So that's boxes 1A, 1B, and 1C. Also in that compartment, this is the first compartment again with the Amicus tools, is box 1D. That's full of structural collapse equipment. The equipment in that box is really just framing equipment, carpentry equipment, so we have squares, levels, tape measures, chalk, paint pens, and that's all to support structural collapse operations. So if you're not familiar with structural collapse or you've not been through any of those classes, it's not anything that you really have to worry about understanding right now. It's just something that you should know is there and that you can stage for at an incident like that. The only other things in that compartment that we haven't already gone over, of course, are a bundle of extension cords and some tarps. So we have 2 regular tarps and a staging tarp for anything that we may need. So that finishes up all of the equipment in compartment 1 on the driver's side of Rescue 5. Thanks. Because there is a fairly limited amount of equipment in the belly pan or belly tray on the driver's side of the Rescue here, I just wanted to add this clip to the last video. In here we have a life ring that can be thrown to anybody for a water rescue. We have some hard protection, And we have some old rubber 5-inch that can be used as soft protection for ropes, webbing, the winch, over a guardrail or something of the sort.